Let me thank all of our elected officials who are here and Reverend Morton, who is the Recreation Commissioner. We're going to go around and introduce ourselves in a minute. And let me thank you, the community, for coming out this Saturday morning to, for us to talk about, to have a conversation and to dialogue about a memorial field, which is so important to all of us in Mount Vernon. And I believe that your presence is really encouraging. I know that these elected officials appreciate it very much. And so why don't we begin with Reverend Morton. I know, let me see, the mayor, Mayor Thomas was invited to this meeting. I sent the mayor a letter. My staff also communicated with his office directly. I spoke to him also directly. He told me that he had another family arrangement today, so he could not be here. And that's fine, because we're going to have other meetings. But we wanted to let everyone know that this meeting, we invited, all elected officials were invited to come and discuss the issues concerning Memorial Field. And we will have a dialogue with the mayor in this open session as we go forward with other meetings. Let's begin with Reverend Morton, Commissioner Morton.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here today to represent the mayor in that he was previously already stated that he was unable to be here today, and so to convey the information from the mayor's office. My name is Darren Morton. I am the Recreation Commissioner for the City of Mount Vernon.
Yes, good morning, family. I'm Jay Yana Edwards. I am presently sitting on the City Council. I'm the former Commissioner of Recreation, retired in 2006.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Copeland, City Councilwoman.
Good morning to you all. I'm Maureen Walker, the Comptroller of the City and the Keeper of the Funds.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Roberta Apuzzo. I'm the president of the Mount Vernon City Council. And just to clarify something, people are coming up to me and saying, I hear you're resigning and you're retiring. But that is not the truth. I still have a job as the executive director of the Soup Kitchen, and I will be the executive director of the Soup Kitchen come January. I'm just not running for a third term.
And I'm Marcus Griffith, City Council member.
Yes. Thank you. And if you don't mind, and let me encourage you to put your hands together for these elected officials that are out here today. I think it's important that we have dialogue as a community, and the tone of this meeting is really an informational meeting for us to discuss with you and with each other about what we're going to do about Memorial Field, particularly the cleanup. There is a lot to be done over at the field. There's a lot of history involving the field. There's a lot of challenges, let me put it that way. But we've got to stop the finger pointing, we've got to stop the blaming, and we've got to start getting to work. And so this is a process by which we're hoping that we coming together. There was an article printed in the Journal News last week or 2 weeks ago that depicted Mount Vernon in ruins, basically, in ruins. Well, I think that we have a chance to show that as a city that we're not in ruins, that we are very capable as elected officials to come together and move forward on something that is so key to our residents. And I think if we're able to do that, I think that we would not complain about, we can't complain about what is written in the newspaper. Our actions have to speak for themselves, and so that's what we're intending to do here today and going forward. The elected officials who are here have committed to getting this field done and getting it working together. And I wanna first let me ask if you'd like to each make a statement before we proceed on. And yes, go ahead, Mark. Yeah, Maureen. Yeah.
Well, as the Comptroller of the City of the Mount Vernon, it's always been our hope with the other elected officials that we will roll up our sleeves and get this done. This is long overdue. And let me say, this is the first of many forums that we will have. And we're not going to just be sitting down and talking. We should see some action.
Right.
It's the summer now. We need to get this field cleaned up. The city has bonded some funds. The county has given us some funds. We still have approximately $7 million in the financials of 2015. I've assigned another $2 million. And if we need to go out and bond for additional 10 or 5 million, we have the ability to do that. So let's stop the talking, as Lyndon said, let's stop the finger pointing. It's not getting us anywhere. Let's get it done for the
Right.
people of the city.
Excellent, yes.
Thank
Anyone
you,
else?
Maureen. I couldn't agree with you more. And one of the things that I would like to see is us to have a field,
Yeah.
not a grand plan of $25 million that I saw on the mayor's drawing board. That would take many years to accomplish and many, many dollars. We don't need that right now. We can build upon. Once we get the field done, where our people will be able to walk in the morning, bring their children in the afternoon, play at night, go over to the tennis center, enjoy what is going on down there. Right now, personally, I want to see a field done, period. And I think we can get that done soon.
And thank you. And I'm glad Commissioner Morton is here because Commissioner Morton has all of the details of the finances. The Comptroller has those details as well. And one thing that I've said from the beginning, when we had a grand plan before, it was scaled back. All I want to see is that the field get done as well. We also have the tennis center that's behind the field that needs to be completed. And I've said clearly and I've said continually, let's, at this stage, not disrupt any of the work that we've already started. For once, let's finish. No egos in the way. Let's finish what we've started. And my recommendation is that we finish the tennis center. Once we get out of the back of that field, then we start working our way out. And I agree with Council President Apuzzo that we need to not do a grand plan and a reinvented plan. We need to do a simple plan that Mount Vernonites can afford and that we feel comfortable spending money on. And that could be as simple as repairing the stands or tearing them down, whatever is the simplest, and get that field open, because the reality is that we know that our constituents simply want to be able to meet down at the field, talk to one another, walk that field, get a little bit of exercise. We've heard that the stands are important for cardio activity, so we want to get the stands, and we want the availability to have the field back like we had before, where we could have our graduations there, where we can have maybe small concerts there, where we can have events that are community-based. And having a field with 15,000 people there is too much for our little community. We don't have enough parking. We don't want the traffic. We want to keep the field as simple as possible. And if we keep on that mindset, simple, as inexpensive as possible, but get it done, we can get this field done in the next few years without a question. But we have to keep on the priorities that we have, do first things first, finish what we started, and just keep it moving. And I'm sure with the people that we have right here, right now, we can get that done. Thank you.
Thank you. Certainly as a person who graduated at Mount Vernon High School there at Memorial Field, is something that's very close to my heart. But we need to, like I said, we need to get the simple things done, move it forward, like my colleagues have said, and just go forward from there. We can do a lot with it, but we have to clean it up,
Right.
fix the stands, or not or have some stands that people can still have activities there, and then move on to the next phase. But our first priority has to be getting it cleaned up and ready for people to be able to walk around there again. So, thank you.
Good morning again. Some of you, and I know a lot of you here, will say this is all rhetoric. I say there is a few plans that have been out there for a number of years. The thing is, there's a plan that the mayor has proposed a number of months ago. There's plans that Commissioner Morton and his staff has put together. There's plans that have been available for the last 9 years. I think we need to look at the plan. Also, I'd like to thank, before I go on, I would like to thank Legislator Williams, because in my archives or in my files, in 2015, he wrote to former Mayor Davis saying to stop the work that was going on and let the new administration take it over. And he also said, which I would like to see and haven't seen in a while, the intermunicipal agreement between the city and the county. That's the most important thing, because I think what happened in the past, when Mayor Davis came in, he did not consult with this municipal agreement. That was the problem, and it shut everything down. So my thing is, let's put the plan in the front of us, which I was hoping that Councilman Wallace was going to be here, because I gave him the plan that was initiated or put out by the mayor a number of months ago. And I wanted him to analyze it because it was important, him being the resident architect, engineer, builder. I want him to look at it, and if there was no plan being forwarded to us or worked on, I said, let's, us as a council, him being the lead person on the council that understands this, let's look at it and put our plan and start working it, if we could, together and pass it on to the county. So I say it's not the man, it's not the woman, it's the plan, okay? We put the plan out there, and we must work that plan and do that immediately, and I agree with everything that's already been said, and I'm glad the last person speaking or introducing himself is the Dr. Commissioner of Recreation, because he's in the lead. Thank you.
Well, I think that, first of all, let me say that I agree that the issue is that we do need to finalize a plan, and what the plan is. The mayor has already communicated what his vision is for Memorial Field, which, of course, as we all know, is different than the plan that was outlined for, by Mayor Davis, which is also different than the plan that was outlined by also Mayor Young. And so what it suggests is that, yes, while the leaders have a different set of visions and ideas, what is really crucial to this is coming together to develop a plan of action in order to get it done. So simplicity is wonderful, and simplicity actually will move the project forward. But there are also, when you're looking at projects like this, there are stages in which the project goes. And so, for example, while there is some contamination that is at the field, the contamination is not at the whole location. It's not at the complete location. And so, therefore, there are ways in which, if a plan is well designed and also discussed and agreed upon, that there's ways in which you can begin to have usage of the location while you continue to move towards the master plan. And so, the mayor's position is that we can start, if we can agree, and then he agrees with everyone, that we have to agree on, first of all, a plan of action for the cleanup. And as we agree upon the plan of action for the cleanup and execute that plan, we can move towards his vision of a stadium that is able to have multiple use, also retail and all that. And so I'm just going to open up with that, because I know that there's going to be some questions about specifically, and then in future meetings, I think the mayor will speak specifically to his plan. But what I want to say to you is that being a recreation commissioner, being involved in recreation and sports for some over 20 some odd years, that there are several different pathways in order to complete a project. But the key to that is the development of a plan of action and a programming plan for usage once the facility is completed.
Okay. Thank you. We are joined by Councilman Wallace. Thank you. But before I introduce, let me just kind of capsulize what we're here today to discuss, to kind of focus in on the cleanup, because no plans can go forward without really having the field remediated. So we've got to do that first. There's a lot of efforts. I mean, you heard about all the plans they've had. And plans, what I call, plans are not necessarily what's drawn on a piece of paper. Plans are designs that actually have engineering inputs, et cetera. The county, when we design a plan for Memorial Field, it costed over $1.2 million. So there are ways to go between getting a plan, what you call a plan for Memorial Field, and what happened. But I don't want us to spend our time kind of, in this meeting here today, on that. I think there'll be other meetings and other discussions, and you'll get a chance to really weigh into all of the, I call them concepts, all of the concepts that have been forward, because it's not a plan until you've got engineers involved, you've got architects involved, they've drawn up and tell you what the cost estimates of things are, tell you what's potentially can work, cannot work. And so that's that level of discussion needs to be had so that we are clear on what we're talking about. But I want to focus on the cleanup, because I think we can't get anywhere without that. And before I proceed further, Councilman Wallace, do you want to introduce yourself and make a preliminary statement or anything? Or?
Well, sorry I'm late, and also I won't be able to stay a long time because I already had some other plans set. However, though, I'm glad that we have an opportunity to sit down and talk about this, discuss it. There are a lot of plans. I've been getting telephone calls on the $125 million plan and a bunch of other things. But we have been working on a lot of this behind the scenes. I have the mayor's book of plans here that I've been going back and forth with Councilman Edwards, who had given me the plans to work on. So I've been crunching numbers, putting things together, see what's affordable, so this way we can actually get this thing up and running. There's been a lot of administrations. Everybody has made a plan change after plan change after plan change, so everybody want to do their own thing. Well, the reality is, by looking at all of the drawings and going over the numbers and all, we are going to have to stick with the second plan that's already tied with part of the first plan, and we're going to have to execute that if we want to get this done. There will be no $120 million plan with a retractable roof. I've already made it clear to the mayor that plan is about $375 million, and the Giants couldn't put a retractable roof on their stadium because they said they couldn't afford it. So unless we're going to bring one of the major league baseball teams here or football teams to play in Mount Vernon, that's not going to happen. It's a good idea, good concept, but I don't see us bonding for $375 million. So with that being said, we're going to move forward. I have a lot of ideas, I guess, that the others haven't got a chance to weigh in on, and I haven't had a chance to sit down with the council, which we were going to do, to go over all the options and crunch the numbers, and then we can move forward with the controller and know exactly what we have to do. So thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, I agree with what you said about when you change. I mean, the reason why we're here as the stadium not being developed is because of the changes that the city has gone through between trying to get one development enacted versus somebody coming in with another concept and saying, okay, let me do something else, and it goes on and on. So there's got to be a point where you kind of say, okay, let's sit down and figure out what we're going to do and just do it. And if the persons who are in office, when you have change in office throughout the county, you don't necessarily have a restart. This is probably the only project where you've had restarts, and that's the reason why we haven't been able to get it done. So having said that, we have a field with 12,000 cubic yards of contaminated soil in the city of Mount Vernon called Memorial Field, which we all love. Soil that was dumped there and soil that today still exists. And we've got to figure out, first of all, what are we going to do about that? What is it going to cost us to move? There was a consent order with DEC. DEC is the Department of Environmental Conservation. It's the regulatory body that oversees just about all contamination, all environmental issues for the state of New York. They are the premier organization that enforces and mandates action when you have issues like dumping on parkland, and Memorial Field is parkland, meaning that it has a special designation under New York state law that you cannot destroy or alienate. You can't take it and make it something else without the state legislative approval. You can't take Memorial Field and decide I'm going to develop it into a retail development without getting the state approval because it's parkland. Similarly, you cannot have someone dump on a field like that and not have a remedial plan to fix it. Because dumping on any kind of parkland, it's not only illegal, it's a crime. It's a crime that was committed. Several months back in January of 2016 and December 2015, I wrote several letters after I discovered the situation at Memorial Field to DEC, to the director of Region 3. I wrote letters to the EPA, and I wrote letters to the law enforcement agencies around Westchester County to request an investigation. And I was very clear in the letters that I needed for someone to be arrested, because that is a crime that was committed in my municipality that I live as a resident, and I want to have action taken. And they've actually commenced investigations on it, and they've actually gone through a process. Obviously, they're not going to talk to me on a day-to-day basis about what their investigations are. But what I do know is that in 2016, early in 2016, DEC had what's called a consent order. And the consent order was against the city of Mount Vernon, because the city of Mount Vernon was found to be complicit in the dumping at Memorial Field. And therefore, the city was deemed to have been operating what they call a waste development site without the permit from DEC. A waste development site is where people come and dump contaminated waste. And to do that, you have to have a permit, because DEC regulates that. So that's what, because the city was found to be in violation, there was a fine that was assessed. And that fine was, in the consent decree, the fine is $50,000. I know that the city paid $40,000, but in the consent decree that I've had, the city had paid $50,000. The consent decree is very clear. It is not a document that you can go around saying, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. They set out clear actions that have to be taken within clear time frames. You violate those actions, you're in continued violation of the law. And so the consent decree order that I read, it was not signed. It was sent by DEC to the city of Mount Vernon in 2016. It was not signed. That consent order called for the entire remediation should have been done by December 31st, 2016, under that consent order. Now, I contacted DEC myself. I had our legislative council contacted DEC, and they confirmed this week that the order was not signed. So the first thing I think the city has to do, the first thing, is to make sure that you have a copy of the consent order and that order is signed. Yeah.
He has the mic.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You
Go ahead.
have it down there.
So,
Yeah.
Legislator Williams, thank you.
This is it here.
From the city's perspective, I want our community to understand that one of the council's roles is to, of course, protect the community. And a part of protecting the community is making sure that we're not accused of things or we consent to things that are not 100% true. So here's our difficulty. And the difficulty really for our city and for your tax dollars is if we truly have contaminated material at Memorial Field. Now, I'll back up and I'll blend in some parts of what we consented to with the consent decree. We consented that we operated a dump. Fine, we're fine with that. The problem is that if that material that is down there is contaminated, it raises our costs extremely to have it removed. And that's something that we as representatives and we as taxpayers do not want. So what we have continued to say is, okay, we allowed or somebody illegally brought in this material. It is now our responsibility. If it's contaminated, okay, but if it's not contaminated, that's a different story. And this is about costs. Does everybody understand that? If it's contaminated, it's a lot more money than if it's not. We don't believe, or we haven't been proven, that the materials are contaminated. So, If it's not contaminated DEC, we accept that we operated a dump and we'll pay that $40,000 fine. But DEC, please don't make us to remove the material if it's not contaminated. Now, of course, if it's contaminated, we're going to have to remove it, and we're going to have to pay for it, or we'll try to find who dumped it. And that's an expense as well.
Yeah.
But it's our fight from the council to not spend that money, because we don't have it, to remove those materials. Now, here's where it gets more confusing. Back when the DEC or somebody came in and reported that the field was contaminated and that there was slag and all these other technical terms of things that most likely you have in your backyard as well. And this is what we've said: to defend the city, those things that you found that were contaminated have been there all along. Because years back, people used to dump, when they heated their homes with coal, the fragments of the coal that you got out of your coal burner, people used to not know it was contaminated. And where did they put it? They put it at Memorial Field. More information. Memorial Field was smaller than it is now, because when we started, and I say we collectively, when we started knocking down some of the mounds and the hills that were off to the side, we spread all of that stuff out. There's a possibility that some of that stuff that was in those hills were some of the coal and the slag and all of these remnants that were there before. So again, to defend the city of Mount Vernon, what I'm saying, please don't make us remove yards and cubic feet of soil that everybody probably has in their backyard at some form.
Yeah.
Because the cost to remove that is going to be very expensive. And then we question who is so interested, taxpayers in Mount Vernon, in removing stuff that everybody has in their backyard. So we're looking to, as a council, protect our tax dollars. There's ways to remediate the field if it is contaminated by covering it, by putting layers on it, and protecting it. And that's what we're looking to do. So that's where a simple process isn't so simple. And when you talk about a $135 million field, which Councilman Wallach has acknowledged that it could be a $300,000 field, when you add on top of that there's contamination and you got to go down so many hundreds of thousands of square cubic yards of material, it adds to that even more. So we're concerned as a council, and if you read the decree, if you really read the decree, the only thing we admitted to was operating a dump. I don't believe it says anything about contamination. So we as a people need to be very careful, elected officials included, need to be very careful about saying and admitting and telling the public that what's down there is contaminated. That's my concern.
All right, let me read the paragraph then in the decree, as you said, at what you admitted to. And I'm not saying, look, I am a defender of Mount Vernon, but we have to be responsible to make sure that the reason why we are in situations like this is that if we decided that this was not contaminated, that DEC was giving us a bad deal, we should be opposing it vehemently and publicly. We should be filing maybe some papers against DEC and saying, hey, we need a hearing, a public hearing on the record to establish why is it that we are being charged with having contamination on a field when we disagree with it. We can't just sit back, and that's the problem. We can't just sit back. This has occurred now 2 years. We cannot sit back. So we've got to stand up. Let me just finish. We're having a dialogue. I mean, we can dialogue and actually be counterpoint. We are adults, and that's what it's about. But I want to make sure that the public will have something to say.
Can I say something?
But let me just finish the point that I'm trying to make. We have an obligation because we made some admissions in the decree. Now, the decree was not signed, as I said initially. So, and perhaps the city is saying, well, we're not going to sign the decree. And I don't disagree with that. But you've got to affirmatively take a step to prevent DEC from continuing to hold us in violation. Because if you have a decree and you don't pursue the terms of the decree, every single day that you don't is a violation, a continued violation. So that's the point that I'm trying to make. I'm not trying to say that DEC is right or wrong.
Okay. All right.
So, okay.
Can I just go through this real quick, because we don't have a lot of time, and I'm here to just talk about Memorial Field and how to get it done.
Well, we have
What-
until,
okay.
we set this meeting for
No,
2 hours,
I know,
Councilman.
I
I know
know.
you might have to leave,
I
but the public
understand
also
that,
will have a chance.
I hear what
Yeah.
Councilman
And this is not a.
Griffin's saying.
yeah.
I hear what you're saying and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Let me just break it down from an engineering standpoint, because I was the one who did the engineering report. I was the one who alerted Lyndon about the mound and the height of the mound and the elevation. So all of that is all that's all past us. The field is not contaminated. The slag that they're talking about comes from charcoal, basically. When you barbecue on a field, the meat and all of that creates what we call slag. People have barbecued in Memorial Field over the years for a long time. That's where your slag comes from. All of that is already beyond and behind us. So whether we pay the money or they did not pay the money and signed the decree or did not sign the decree, that should all just be, forget about all of that, because it's already done. Okay, now we need to focus on what we got to do with the field. Getting that stuff out, I understand you say it's costly, you say it needs to come out. It's an easy process. Okay, if you take the numbers and we go into who's knocking down the stand, if you look at the debris that's there, we can scoop off the top layer, which I've been saying for years, which is item 4, use that, reuse that. The rocks, we could crush it, reuse that, and the rest of it is nothing more than building debris under the bottom. We're gonna have building debris when they're knocking down the stands, pretty much the same type of debris. Take it out all at the same time, and the cost will be minimum. That's it. But we have to move forward with a plan, what we're
Right.
gonna do. Let's knock down the stands, let's remove that stuff, and then I guarantee you in about 9 months, you can finish this thing. We keep
Okay.
going on, it's been
All right.
9 years.
Okay, so that's what we're here to talk about. What is the plan for getting, as you said, your plan is to get all this out? Yes. Okay. What is the plan?
Okay, so quickly, Memorial Field historically has had the historic fill, which you've heard. Slag, coal, all those things are historic. It was fine, as long as it wasn't disturbed, as long as there wasn't new material that was added in. New material at some point was added in, was brought onto the site, which caused a problem for DEC. DEC in the very beginning asked for a plan, so then it had to be evaluated to find out how much of that actually is new, is information, is material that they cannot actually determine what it is because it had been ground up so much. And so then you have to determine which kind of
Right.
pathway you're
Exactly.
going to
Yes.
go in
Exactly.
order to remediate it.
Exactly.
According to, according to the mayor, what the mayor has reported to me, is that the DC, right now, the city is waiting on the approval of the plan from the state, which we expect will be about 2 or 3 months, somewhere in the July, August time frame. After a plan has been approved, which is the determination on whether or not, as Councilman Wallace has said, whether it is that you're capping it or you have to actually remove any parts of it, will then determine how long that process is to take. Estimation can be up to anywhere about a year or 18 months, depending. Again, it's a matter of the plan being approved by the state for what the next steps are.
Yeah. Just one point I want to make, Commissioner Morton. Our Legislative Council had a discussion yesterday with the senior attorney at Region 3 of DEC. And based on his discussion, they said, this is what she said, that she had not received an executed consent decree from the city of Mount Vernon. And that if the city needs to have a consent decree executed, and the consent decree kind of lay out what the remediation steps are, including the plan you're talking about, that the city has to take. Part of that steps include, you have 2 options. You have an option to remove, or you have an option to separate. Right. If you have, and the separation, you have to choose So if you choose a separation option, you have to go through, you've got to get engineer. You don't just go and tell them, oh, I believe that this is not contaminated and this is. You've got to get engineers, you've got to get studies done. And all of that takes time, and there's set limits within which you must do that. If you're going to remove, right, if you're going to remove it, they require you to remove it and deposit it in a DC facility, you know, where they're designated to remove. So those are the options that are open to the city. But the first thing you've got to do is to get in a plan that everybody agree with.
Right, but the first thing that you have
yeah.
to do in order to get
Yeah.
a plan is to actually have what is there actually tested, right?
Right,
To determine
okay.
what is what.
Okay.
Right? Which,
Is it-
my understanding is that piece occurred.
The
now,
option, okay.
to determine what is there.
Okay.
To Councilman Wallace's point.
So is there a
as
report?
to deciding what was already historic, had already been there,
right.
and what was now new. Once that was determined, then it's a matter of proposing to DEC what your plan of action is. Because DEC wants you to agree, and meaning the mayor, the council, and the comptroller to agree
Right.
on that this is the plan moving forward.
Yeah, let me just comment on the point. Yeah, that's the point. Has that been done so that, in other words, has that been done where you've actually came up with the study? Is that done, the study? Are you aware?
We hired a,
Can I interject on that question?
No, just,
The last meeting.
Okay.
You're supposed to know was the soil contaminated or not. At the last March meeting, Lisa, you was there.
right, but we did, the information wasn't,
Knew the answer in
but we
March.
don't have the answer. I understand.
yeah, I mean, that's,
DEC,
hold on. I know you're getting impatient, but I think that's the reason why this is an information session, because I think it helps to really get to the public. If we're going to get this cleaned up, we have to know where we are, basically. You know. Yeah.
we,
Yeah.
we hired an engineer.
Hold on. Please hold on, Mr. Clark. Could you please hold?
An engineering firm was hired to test the soil. We got a
hold on,
grant,
hold
but
on,
listen,
hold on.
we got a grant from the state for this person to do it. To my knowledge, we haven't gotten the response back yet, unless the president had, that's it. That's all I have to say.
Excuse me, prior to that, under the Clinton administration, when this project started, there was the engineer
It's
people
good.
who tested Memorial Field, and it came up positive with asbestos. It came up positive. After that,
Well-
please, Mr. Williams, give me a
I'm
chance.
trying to give you the
Mr.
mic,
Ma-
that's all, Mr. Clark.
Under the Davis administration,
I know. I'll
he
correct.
said he was going to
Yeah.
keep,
Yeah.
he was going to keep the old stadium. The report came from Clinton administration that it was contaminated with asbestos.
Yes.
And you don't get government money to spend on any kind of
Exactly.
development where there's asbestos. I'm a layperson, and I personally went to Apple Environmental School to get myself knowledgeable about this asbestos. And I finished the course and got a New York State inspector license for asbestos. And I come over and over to this group, all the forum and spoke about. I got that document from the Corporation Council in Mount Vernon. I got that document, which was done. And I had to pay $19 and a few cents for the copies. And I paid for it and have it. And as recently as Ms. Copeland was made to chair the Memorial Field Committee, I started attending it with others. And I recommended to them, while the dumping was going on, to get the place secured. So this
Clark,
dumping
could you wrap
will
it up?
stop.
Because
I'm going to
yeah.
wrap it up,
Yes.
but we need to know where we're coming
Yeah.
from to where we're going. And we were told as a community that they were going into litigation, and that money from the litigation would pay for the cleaning up of Memorial Field. Every time there's a different administration, And every time there's a different forum, there's different information coming to us. I'm a layperson. I'm just going by the lame. All those terms, they're good for who understand them. But on a practical base, if there's asbestos and a local person buy the property, you got to clean it up. You cannot build on it.
Yeah.
So, you know, let's stick to what's going on.
Okay, hold on. He has.
So I just want to clear up Mr. Clark's perspective clearly and quickly. So the question from Mr. Clark was about asbestos at Memorial Field. And as you all know, in homes that were built and even buildings that were built at that time, asbestos was used around pipes to keep things well. So Mr. Clark is correct. Under the Clinton administration, asbestos was underneath the stands, in the bathrooms, and in the inside facilities where they were heated. And we were required to remove that asbestos before the stands came down, and that asbestos was removed. So, Mr. Clark, you're correct. There was asbestos, as there's probably is in many of our homes. And Mr. Clark, that asbestos was removed. So the issues that we have with contamination are different than the issues that we had with contamination when we were moving forward with the stands coming down. So, all right, so we got to keep things in line. And the reason why I wanted to cut off Mr. Clark is not being disrespectful. The community doesn't have the correct information. It's very difficult for us to explain all the years that went through, and I want to make sure we get to community and Lyndon as well. That's why we're having this forum, is to try to get the community focused, pinpoint focused on what our issue is today.
Yeah. I just want to, I think we have, let me have it.
All I want to know is the field contaminated? Or who did it, when they did it, I don't care. I don't think
Well,
the community doesn't care. We want to know is it contaminated, and you develop a simple flow chart. Is it contaminated? Get the experts to tell you. None of your experts in environmental issues. Get the experts if you want to get two opinions. If it's contaminated, yes, move forward. If it's
DC, this is, I can't, you're right, I cannot go on, I don't go on statements that are made by others. I rely on reports. DEC did 4 studies of the soil. January 12, 2015, December 3rd, 2015, December 24, 2015, January 6, 2016. And they concluded that the materials were contaminated. And if it is that the city doesn't agree with that, then they should disagree. But let me go back to one other point here. No, but hold on. Now, I'm not talking about, I mean, if you say that the test of DEC was inadequate, that's something that the city want to challenge, they can challenge. You can challenge that, but the point of fact is that they issued reports. Let me say one other thing before I go. This issue about the field was always contaminated is a slippery slope that the city is going down. Because you know why? When the county advanced the money to the city, you did an environmental study, and you had a negative declaration that there were no environmental issues related to Memorial Field. And you also did another negative declaration.
Lyndon, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
No, but let me finish my point.
You can't make that statement.
Yeah.
You cannot make that statement and now incite a community.
I'm not inciting.
No, that statement does incite a community because you are correct. There was a negative declaration. And I stated in my statement earlier that it was clear that it is a historic fill. As long as you are not disturbing that historic fill or bringing in any new elements, you have no issues. So that's when you hear the councilman say, well, it has had this kind of contamination there. It's talking about the historic fill. And so, so based upon that, you then got a negative declaration because when you laid out the plan as to what you were going to be doing, you were not going to be bringing any new items in that would create any more contamination. Based upon the fact that new items came in and no one was able to determine what those new items were because those new items had been grinded up so small that when they came and did all of those tests, they could not determine what the elements were. That's what now tagged it as being contaminated.
Well, let me say this. From what
I just want to know, when will Memorial Field
yeah,
be
I think, yeah,
shovel ready?
yeah,
Shovel ready.
yeah.
That we got our streets fixed, when our streets were paved, as you know, Edwards, before the president allowed all that, our streets, Obama at the time, we had to have our streets shovel ready. So now, all of this information, you guys are the answer men. We're just a community. If you tell me my house is dirty, I gotta go get the material to clean it up. I expect you, the answer people, to tell me, first it was dirty, now Pauline Bruin, you've cleaned it up. Now we can proceed from there to have any recognition of it. You are the answer man. We are here for you to tell us, when's it gonna be shovel ready? What's our role?
All right. Go ahead.
First of all, I want to applaud you for taking the time to pull everybody together and to give us some updates, because we hear so many misinformation communicating, and some of the misinformation come from people that sits up there. For whatever reason, I don't know why. But I must concur with her, being a resident for 28 years, it's time for this field to be done. Whatever y'all got to do to make it happen, we have elected you all to do all of these specific things. So, as she said, when it's going to be done, and please take the politics out of this.
Yes, I agree.
Community is suffering. We want the field. And whatever it's going to cost us, I'm a pastor of the church, and I tell the members, whatever it's going to cost us, the members say, we got to work to pay it. Whatever it's going to cost us, we got to work to pay it. But please come up with
First, okay, let me finish up. Let me just say this one thing. We do have plans, and we have options, and we have it here. We're all on the same page. Mayor has ideas in here. We have ideas. We know what we got to do. The bottom line is we need to talk first, have a meeting behind closed doors, and come up with the ideas, because everybody seems to have a different part of what's going on. And we need to discuss that first, because right now, coming out seem like this is becoming more alarming to you than anything else. So we need to have a plan, like she said, with a flow chart, which is correct. With when you're doing things in construction, you have a chart down so people can see, remove contamination, remove bleachers, start process, remediation, done this, that's that next step. And we can go into the book. The plan is that we have two plans that we're dealing with. And I'm going to break it down simple. We have the Clinton administration plan and the Davis plan. Right now, we cannot go back and do the Clinton administration plan because the Davis plan created a situation where the tennis courts overlap so the track won't fit. So let me just say this. All right, let me finish, and then you can talk. Look. Okay, but listen. The tenant, I wasn't even here. But the bottom line is,
Andre, can let him. Yeah.
Okay.
Wrap it up
Thank you. I understand that. Listen, Bishop. If I could.
Andre, could we have
okay. Can I finish? I'm gonna finish, and then I'm gonna finish my point. Then that's it. I don't have anything else to say. The bottom line is we have the two plans. We could only go with the Davis plan now because we cannot fit the Clinton plan in there unless we knock down the tennis courts to make rooms and go back. But then you're going to spend money to knock it down and restart it. I'm telling you from a developer standpoint, an engineer standpoint. So what we have to do is look at how we can take the existing plans and finish it accordingly. And finish the field. That's what we just need to do. Finish the field. We can't go backwards. It's going to be a problem.
I'm going to do it, but go ahead. This gentleman here was waiting a long time. Could you give him the mic, please?
Hello? I'm just standing here.
We'll try.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. You know, for the last
almost 30 years I sat with when the issues were rusty bleachers and deteriorating bathrooms. About 28 years ago, I think, there's only two of us that's here that sat on that committee. We were promised, like I asked one original member who headed the chair, what happened? Politicians lie, people get distorted. I understand, Lyndon Williams, you know, we knew each other from concept. I nominated you, I second nominated you when you first ran for city council here in Mount Vernon. But that's not the issue. The issue is what role, we're here because we care, and we're concerned. We love our city, first of all, and we love Memorial Field. The issue is, why are we here? I read the article in the paper. I was delighted when I saw it yesterday. But why are we here, and what role could we play? Could we as citizens now, if you give a date or something, go down there and make it look presentable? What do you want from us, the community? Because it seems like what I'm hearing now, the dialogue, y'all ain't had no meeting to have together. Like I said at last week's city council meeting, no more blueprints, no more consultants, no more wasting taxpayers' money. Let's do it, because, you know, enough is enough. You know, like I said, the YMCA, $700,000, the taxpayers' money, the building is still closed. Come on, why are we here, please? Why are we here?
Yeah, well, let me just answer that directly. Let me answer that directly for you. I am the county, I can't mandate any action by the city council or the mayor. I can't make them do anything that they don't want to do. The only role I have was as the county legislator to try to get the funds to help the city residents pay for Memorial Field to get done. That's what my role was. The reason for this meeting is because I saw that nothing was getting done, and with respect to the contamination, I've had many, many calls from constituents. I represent Mount Vernon. I represent the city, and Memorial Field is in my legislative district. I get calls directly from residents that ask me every day, what is being done? Could you actually step in and try to help? That's what my role is here. So I'm not looking to get into an argument back and forth with anyone, because that's not what my role is. There have to be decision makers. And I've promised, and I have been out there to all of the elected officials, that anything that I can do to help, I will. But I believe the public needs to get information about what's going on. The reason why I'm getting calls is that the public does not know. They're seeing a field that has been dumped upon, and they do not know what actions are being taken. That's what this is supposed to be able to give information. And it's the same reason why we're being portrayed in that way in the newspaper. Because people are perceiving these discussions cannot be one where you're having dialogue. And and so I'm hoping that perhaps this can change the tone, and maybe we can intelligently figure out how we move forward. That's the reason why I called this meeting. Because I could have sit on the sideline as a county legislator and said, you know, it's not my problem, but it is my problem because I'm a resident here. I pay taxes in this city, and I want to see it done as well as you do. Yes.
All right, good morning. My name is DeJuan Martin. I am a lifelong resident here. There is nobody more into this than me. 61 years here. I've seen Mount Vernon at its best.
Yeah.
Playgrounds. Children had supervision. There was the shootings, the killings. We had a good foundation here. What we need to do now is stop trying to give it a lot of personal agendas.
All right.
These are our representatives. We need to come together as a people.
All right.
We control this. They are just our representatives. Accountability, communication, and efficiency. Memorial Field, we're not looking to do a giant stadium. I don't think that's what you want. We don't have the parking. We have parking at Best Buy. We have some parking at Target. We're looking to put something here. What we need to put here is something for our children. Football games, high schools, people come here to do football games. We're not looking for nothing elaborate. I remember playing handball, paddleball at the field, running, jogging. We had it all. The tennis courts had their thing going on. That was fine. But then again, I know that was somebody's personal agenda. Okay? We want nothing more then Memorial Field brought back to be a usable field for our community. That's all we want. That's all we want. We want it done without somebody's personal plans getting in the way.
Right.
Simple. Find out, first of all, the soil, I don't know where it came from. DPW worker 40 years, I just retired here. That was somebody's personal plan. Somebody made money off of that. I will tell you point blank. I don't know who it was. I'm not pointing the finger. But it was bought in, and somebody made some money off of that. But now we're past that. Let's find a way to get it out. Let's put a simple plan in place. Very simple. Nothing. We don't need no 120 million, whatever. We want bleachers on one side. Take the plaque off the wall, which is history. Take the plaque off. Rebuild that side there. Put something on the other side also, because you're going to have the visitors and you're going to have the home team. Put your track up. Put up a concession stand or something simple. Get it open. Put the handlebars or whatever back there. We don't want nothing elaborate. We just want it simple. We want it up in operation. That's all we want. Am I right or wrong? Yes. If we get that up and stop the bickering, then maybe our children will lead a better life. We're giving them something here. We need to bring back some things here for the kids that are here.
Absolutely. Let me just shed a little light on the tennis court facility, because I just want to shed this. I just want to shed this light on. I don't want to be talking about other administrations and what they did and the names. Right. We don't need to do that anymore. Right. But let me just tell you that the tennis courts, whoever name was there, had to be put in because they're in the back. They had to get the materials in first before they could do Memorial Field. The tennis courts would not have been able to been erected if the field was there, because it would have ruined the field. The tennis courts, the previous tennis courts, were short. They were not USTA tennis courts. Now they are. And now,
but that's not the priority. She's me.
Now, Marcus and I were down there yesterday. We've been there twice this week. Good. And they have free tennis lessons from 3 o'clock until 9 o'clock on Sunday for anyone in the community. And also on Friday nights, we've got adults and children that are playing down there.
Thank you,
so,
Roberta. Could you
okay?
do that? Make us
But I just wanted you to know that the tennis courts had to go in first.
Okay, okay, and I don't have a problem with tennis courts. I didn't at the time that the plans were being made, because I thought that we should attract more income into Mount Vernon to reduce our tax base, so we don't have to put so much pressure on our homeowners to take up the cost of doing anything in the city. So we have to find that, strike that balance in between wanting things the way they were, but wanting something better for the future. And so I was a proponent of having more tracks to bring in more activities and stuff in the city. Now, we have to take baby steps. The school district has a 2020 vision. It's a long-term vision. It's a big vision, and it's beautiful. But guess what? Yes, we do have to take first steps, right? Staff development, everything. I don't have a problem with, we tell our children every day, dream big. This is a school, a college. We tell our kids, dream for the stars, and maybe you'll fall in the trees, right? So I don't have a problem with the $125 million dream. We may come down to $95 million, but we have to dream big, and then we find ourselves somewhere in the middle, and then we take the first step. So the first step is cleaning up the field. Yes, we know that, but there's nothing that precludes us from having for our future, for children, so that they don't have to be saddled with the tax burden when they become homeowners of the city. So I'm just saying, broaden your mind a little bit. And you may not get there, and it may not be the wise thing to get there. But if you're already axing it from the get-go, because you're only thinking about cleaning up the field, that's your only vision, there's a problem with that. There's a problem with that. We have to dream big. Right. And I'm not saying that that particular vision is the best vision, but I'm saying don't just shut it down just because you don't like I think it's just because you don't like the person. That's my opinion. Give it a chance, see where we can come to some middle ground, and we can maybe fall in the trees. If we start our vision on the ground, we're not going to go anywhere. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, I just want to keep it. I think there was someone. Come on up. I just want to look. As I said, I'm the county legislator. I just want to keep it focused on what I want to see get done initially, which is the cleanup. I mean, I know that there are plans, and you're going to get, look, I've been long enough at this to see, I've seen many, many plans. And I have been very kind of flexible. I want to hear how the plans are going to become off of paper into reality. And that's going to take money. Even what they're talking about doing, that's going to take money. Do they have the money to do it? All of that's going to take money at the end of the day. But we don't have to we have to get to first principles. We've got to clean that field up. And that's all that I want to get accomplished, at least now, so that we can talk about what else needs to be done later. And what else needs to be done later is not going to be just somebody sitting here saying, hey, I'm going to do this plan or do that plan. They're going to have to be specific, and they got to tell us where they're getting the money from to get it done at the end of the day. So,
hi, my name is Dr. Sonia Cole. I'm a psychiatrist here in Mount Vernon and a resident of Mount Vernon for the last about 21 years. 18 years ago, I was using Memorial Field, jogging around Memorial Field on a regular basis. I'm also one of the organizers of Emotional Wellness Week in Mount Vernon. Developed it or thought about it 3 years ago because I, as someone who is in the mental health field and living in Mount Vernon, recognize the trauma that Mount Vernon has experienced as a community, as a collective. We are traumatized and we are in pain. What I want to ask, and what I see, and I'm just always struck by all of the content, all of the information that we get when I come to these meetings. Some of it goes over my head, but there's always tons of information. What I don't get and what I don't appreciate yet is how each and every one of you as people, as human beings, are looking at how you can overcome the barriers that are obvious in your communication, in your efficacy in communication with each other, okay, and with the community to understand our pain and to use that understanding to elevate your process and move forward in accomplishing something for us, okay? So I'm asking you as individuals, okay, how you can help and what you are doing to help elevate this process. Councilman Wallace, what do you do to elevate this process in the meetings to recognize and look at yourself as a human being in relation to the pain that we are experiencing in this community to move forward in this process? Councilman Griffiths, what do you do in the meetings to move forward in elevating this process? Councilwoman Apuzzo, what are you doing in this process to elevate this in communicating, in making sure that we can move forward in this? Comptroller Walker, what are you doing in this process? Are you looking into yourself and trying to elevate this process to move forward? Councilman Copeland, what are you doing to elevate this process? Councilman Edwards, what are you doing to elevate this process? And Mr. Horton, what are you doing to elevate this process? That is what I want to know, because we are in pain. We are a traumatized community. You're supposed to help us move forward. If you can't, then you need to look a little bit deeper, okay? And if you need therapy, get some therapy to make it happen. There are people out here to help you with that. Okay, thank you very much.
So you know, yeah. You don't have to read. I think. Yes. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a tremendous advocate for Mount Vernon. I don't know. I'm fighting for Mount Vernon all the time. I believe in this city. I love this city. I've lived here for many years. Now, one of the things I always do is ask myself a lot of questions why something is happening or not happening. One of the things I see here, and maybe some of you are not aware, we've had 4 different mayors. And each time there was a mayor, things changed. It went from Davis, or we tried it, we thought we had it. It went to Clinton Young, where he actually started it and it was stopped. Then we went back to Davis again, where it changed totally. Now we are here with Thomas. Now that's one part of it. We're at the point now where it really doesn't matter anymore. Lyndon Williams mentioned that yesterday. And I'm kind of grateful to the Journal News be honest with you. We talk about the media. We really do.
Yeah.
But I was embarrassed when I read the articles. If you have any pride, you have to. And you know what? They were on the money.
Right.
They were on the money. Every word they said was true. And as I read it, I said, I can't believe this. And I'm going to tell you a couple other things. Years ago, Yonkers was in the same situation we were. I read an article a few weeks ago. They were in the top 100 best cities to live in. They went from being where we were to one of the best cities to live in. I was amazed, but I saw it. I saw it develop it. So I saw it. Another thing I'd like to share, a few years ago when Pelham was on our case about Target, traffic and all that, I heard somebody say, you know, Mount Vernon goes as, Westchester County goes as Mount Vernon goes. I don't know if people understood that. I remember a few years ago when the budget was not voted on, our sports program was lost, our extracurricular activities was lost. And you know who bailed us out? Other towns. Farnsfield, Pelham, I was stunned. We did our own selves in, but they came to our own rescue. So we are our own worst enemies. So whatever we have to do to move forward, and I'm going to be honest with you, every individual in this sitting here, I will never let anyone criticize them. I'll be honest with you. I know every single one. And I hear people complaining about each of them. And I won't allow it. I left the gym this morning on Gramerton Avenue, getting ticked off at someone that was criticizing someone here. That's why I am. When I say I'm an advocate for Mount Vernon, I am. I love this city. So whatever it takes, we just have to do it. You know, and I'm leaving. Nike has one simple thing. Just do it.
Just do it. There you go. There you go. That is exactly.
Thank you so much, Mr. Grimes. And thank you, Dwayne. You and I go back 20-something years. And we have seen the worst and we've seen the best. And I agree with you. Right now, what is very important is finding out how much it's going to cost to remove the soil, whatever contaminated soil, and prevent it from coming back. We have to have proposals on the table. We must be able to, if we have to go to bid, begin the process. And let's stop the talking about this is going to get done. Let's do it. My role is to make sure that this city remains a financially stable city. My role also is to make sure that we can find the money, whether we bond, whether we assign funds from our general fund balance, to make sure that this process gets started. I've done that. I've assigned at least $2 million, if we need it right now, to start the cleanup. Apart from that, we still have money from the money that we bonded 2 years ago. So, guys, let's get together. Let's get that proposal in place to clean up, and let's get it done. That's the first step. We can't think about the big dream right now.
Right.
The first step is cleaning it up, making sure that this city can financially carry that burden. Because at some point in time, we spent $100 million. You guys are going to come back to us when your taxes go sky high. So let's carefully think of the process. And we don't want this to be a burden on our children and our grandchildren. At the same point in time, we want something that is doable, that's financially doable. So thank you for your input.
Yes. I think, let me just, I'm going to give it to you. I think the Comptroller hit the nail on the head. At the end of the day, that's what we want to do. And I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Morton and the council members to kind of give us some time frames in when their expectations are in getting the different steps of the field getting clean, some time frames. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be so that we have some kind of benchmark to look to. So I'm going to turn it over now to Commissioner Morton.
Okay. So first of all, I think that for me, because the question was asked, what do you do? So what do you do to try to ease the pain of the community and also try to move the process forward? Is what you do is to try to, first of all, seek to understand rather than to be understood, right? And to understand what is happening and where do we need to be. We've talked about that this first step before anything can happen is the cleanup of what is contaminated. We've acknowledged the fact that not the entire field is contaminated. The entire field is not contaminated. We are talking about a particular section of the area that needs to be remediated. The first step to that, based upon the conversation, is that the consent decree has to be signed and that the plan of action has to be approved. And so the mayor is saying that the plan has already been developed, and the plan now, the expectation is that the plan would be approved in 2 to 3 months, expecting that some respond. I don't know if that's the end date or if it's somewhere in between, but let's use that as a time frame, right? That 2 to 3 months. And what I will do is circle back to the mayor about the concern that we've heard from the councilman about that the dissent decree had not been signed, all right? And then also to follow up on the time frame. I think that that's the first step. Now, I heard the comptroller say that there is $2 million that has already been assigned. So then if we know, if the dissent decree is signed and if the plan that is submitted by the city is approved, then there should be no obstacle for the funding in order to get the action and get the cleanup done, right? Based upon what we all heard and discussed today, right? So to me, that's the plan. That's the next step going out of here, and is what I will just communicate as what I heard from this body to the mayor when I see him.
So I think it's important. Thank you for that, because I think it's very important. So we're talking about 2 to 3 months, which would be what, June, July, right? So we're in May now, so if you assume that May, June, July, by the end of July, the cleanup should have been accomplished of the stadium. Is that, I just want to make sure that we're all on board, because,
DEC has to approve the plan,
No.
and they said, isn't that?
Yeah, but they have short time frames.
Okay. I think in my opening statement I said the public did not want to hear the rhetoric, okay? I think the next thing that has to be done, and firstly, I'd like to thank Dr. Cole. I'd like to thank you for your comments, because they're very, I accepted them, and I do as much as I possibly can, and we'll try to do more. But I think what we need to do, the public, the next thing you need to hear from us is, or to be publicized, is what the plan is, okay? That's all you want. And I think what we have to do, and I think we've agreed amongst ourselves, or we will agree amongst ourselves, to formulate a plan. I'm so glad that Councilman Wallace is here. Like I said, he's the resident expert, okay, amongst us, and I appreciate what he brings to the council. And I think along with him and Lisa Copeland and Dr. Morton, I think we should be able to come up with that in the next couple of weeks, okay? The plan. That's all I'm going to be working on, is for us to
That's the
develop
remediation plan. The remediation.
Whatever plans are necessary, they have to be in steps. There has to be a timeline, like you said. Let's see the timelines and work it like it's been said that Nike says.
Yeah.
Let's just do it.
Yeah. So,
And Dr. Cole, I just want to say, my role is to find common ground and to move the process forward. I appreciate your comments.
I think these discussions, they're healthy to have, and they have them throughout the county. They have them in other communities when there are issues that need to be addressed. So it's important that we have these discussions. But I think that it's good that we're kind of setting some goals, so we're not just talking and leaving out of here with leaving you uncertain as to what and when things are going to be done and what's going to be done. So I think that's what this informational meeting was about, so that we can get that a plan is being prepared, that plan will be completed, and I don't know if the remediation, but the plan will be completed within a couple of weeks, to the distributed or put online or somewhere to the community, and the plan will be implemented, meaning that there's an approval process in between that DEC has, and but the expectation is that within 3 to 4 months, or 2 to 3 months, right, Pastor? 2 to 3 now. 2 to 3 months. Between 2 to 3 months, the remediation and implementation would be completed. So I think that that is, you know, I mean, it's a good kind of benchmark to set so that everybody is aware of where we're going. I mean, that's what I wanted to get accomplished as a part of calling this meeting, because I think that that's important for us to, as a community, to kind of set some goals and drive toward accomplishing those goals.
I think also, looking at this, the mayor's plans, the mayor gave us 3 options, and then he gave us the 4th one, which he just put out there.
Remedial plan or
Memorial Field plan.
Development plan.
Both, development and the whole thing. Plan A, Plan B, which is option 1, option 2, option 3. He presented this a while ago at Memorial Field. We all spoke about it. We looked at the options. We have option 1 that we were discussing we can go with that's affordable, and we can make sure that this happens. So we just need, knowing that the plan is here, I agree with the mayor's plan on option 1. All we have to do is sit back, get this stuff done, and push it forward and start the process. Yeah. He's already did the plan. He's done all of the other stuff. And he's presented it. And you can see the plans here.
It's great to say we can see it now here while we're here, but I'm saying, what about the rest of the public? Do we get to vote on what we as the public like?
I think
we're not looking for nothing extravagant.
Right.
Simplicity is what we want.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me hold on, Andre. Let me suggest this, because I believe that they need to have a public meeting on which plan of development they're going to take. Yes. I mean, I don't think that this meeting was set up for that. I mean,
the mayor,
you know,
the mayor's done it already.
No, but okay. This is my suggestion. I can't mandate it, I said, but I can suggest, and I'm going to suggest that you have a public meeting to discuss which option you're going to choose, why you're going to choose the option, what's going to cost. All of those things need to be discussed in a public forum, not you know. So I mean, I want to keep it focused on just the cleaning up, because I don't, you know, going down that road, we can be here all day, and we really, so you guys got to do that separately. Let me just make one other point. The other point I want to make is that in the cleanup, Commissioner, you may want to make sure that we consider an end use. In other words, meaning that after the cleanup has concluded, what is the end use for the
Can I just say one last comment?
Yeah.
The reason why I'm explaining this part, why it is so important, is because when you're doing one remediation section, the other need to be done, because you need to use certain materials from one side that are good for the other side. If you don't, the cost is going to double on the taxpayers rather than
Andre,
so you have to
that's what the end use. That's what the end use part of it is about. But I just want to make sure. What I'm saying is this. What I'm saying. Okay, you'll get it. I want to make sure I'm clear. I'm not disputing that you need to have a discussion about that. But this is one meeting. A half an hour, and that's going to take hours to discuss. I just want to make sure we focus on what we came here to do, and we can, you know, there'll be time to do that, to discuss that. I'll be glad to facilitate.
So I was sent here to represent the mayor, to hear and to also respond, and so I heard that. So I heard your question. I also heard Councilman Wallace's position about how do you use material that is going to be good for other sections that you're going to be going forward to save the city money. You don't want the cost to go up. So whatever materials that can be used and salvaged should be salvaged so that it can be used for some other fill that you're going to need for the next stage of the project. What I want to make sure that the public understands so that we are clear. The first step in knowing when it is going to get cleaned up, Sister Matt, is for DEC to approve the plan. So understand that there's going to be a lull of any activity until you hear from DEC that it's okay to move forward, right? So the first step from the city standpoint is to make sure that the plan has been submitted, the plan for the cleanup has been submitted, and that the DEC approves that plan. The last thing I want to say to you is that while that is going on, that you should recognize that DEC is already approved for there to be some limited use of Memorial Field, the areas that have no contamination in them for specific things. So as you begin to clean up, there will be more availability for usage. And what we will do from a recreation standpoint is to look to what temporarily we can do down there to make sure that there is still some community use as the cleanup is still happening, as the demolishing of the stadium is going to be happening, all of that. That's part of the next phase of the plan. But the first thing is to wait on DEC's approval for the plan.
Commissioner Morton, you're right in that you have to first submit the plan and the order to DEC. Correct. And DEC has triggered timeframes. In other words, 30 days, 90 days.
Correct. We don't have time to prolong.
But we not right. So when will the plan? The starting point for this is a submission by the city of the signed consent decree and the plan. When is that going to happen?
Well, that's what I'm going back to the mayor. I have to get a decision from him because I heard you today say that the DEC told you that it had not been done, right? I don't know that to be true, not true. Don't know where it is, where it was.
I'm just saying, consent decree. It's not signed.
I hear you, but I'm saying I need to go to the mayor, right, and tell him that that's what you said today.
Because I just want to get the community to get a sense of what they can expect. Because we leave these meetings, and I understand that you can't make that decision now.
What I heard from the mayor was 2 to 3 months.
2 to 3 months is the end line.
2 to 3 months
is the end line.
Approval, 2 to 3 months to get their approval. So to me, 2 to 3 months is what I heard. Right, to start a correct. That's what I'm saying.
2 to 3.
Correct.
Okay, to start the cleanup.
All right. 2 to 3 months is to wait for the approval from DEC. And then that starts the cleanup.
Yeah, but
I said that like an hour ago. The DEC hasn't approved the
We
plan.
didn't send it.
The waste that's going to be moved out, is that going to be on us to get it out, or is that going to be on DEC to find out where it's going to be able to be accepted at? That's a big process.
It's on the city.
It's on us, so we need to find something.
That's why you said we need for the cleanup. Right, part of
That's the biggest part. Find out where it's going to be accepted at.
That's on the city.
Okay.
All right.
It said that one mother can raise 20 children, but the 20 children can't control all of this mother. This mother says, I'm tired of reading how the council is available, the mayor is available. I want to see all you guys stop acting like spoiled children. The mayor and the council, all of you get together and behave as adults. I'm tired of this fraction does this fraction does the other. Insofar as Memorial Field, I don't want to see a carrier, although I'm sure you're competent and all the rest of that good stuff. And as each of you know your job description. But I want to see a consolidated city council, mayor, and everybody who's in charge of this city. I want to see you stop acting like spoiled brats. I'm having my meeting, I'm having this meeting, you're having, and someone's not in attendance. What kind of foolishness, nonsense is that? We vote for you guys, and I love my council, Mr. Edwards. He was the only one who was available to us during the presidential campaign, who would afford us the space to make phone calls, because nobody else in Mount Vernon would afford us that opportunity. He gave us, the entire Democrat Party wouldn't give us a space, an ounce of time or a penny or anything. And he was the only one who was available to us. So I want to know that same effort that's put forth by Apuzzo, about the Comptroller, and the mayor. I want to see everybody in here stop behaving like children and do the job that we vote for you to do. Thank you.
Ms. Clark, okay. You had any? Yes, Clark. Yeah. Yes. Give him a mic. Yeah. We're getting ready to wrap up.
I have a little more faith this morning in sitting and looking at our representative at that table. And I'm going to break it down. Council, Comptroller, and the mayor's representative. That's a good sign. I'm not going to put a timetable on you to come back in 3 weeks, a month, like you even say yourself. It's so complex. But what I'm asking you to do, all the material you have on Memorial Field, from Davis administration, Clinton administration to Davis administration to the present administration of Mr. Thomas. Get these documents. They are in City Hall. Commissioner Norton had promised to give me some of the documents some time ago with what it was costing with Memorial Field to clean up and whatnot. But there have been so much back and forth, and he's so busy, I didn't follow up on that. He has a lot of information on that. The contamination issue, whatever documentation is there, please look at it. You have a building department. You have a law department. Get all these people together and come back to us with a document. Even bring some of these people that our taxes are paying their salary to explain about environmental and the process it takes and what is the government regulation, so we're not pointing the fingers at you. Some of you representing us, and we're expecting too much of you all because you're not expert in some of these fields. And personally, when I get up to talk, and there was a clarification about the asbestos that I mentioned, which I went and did some training in, and I'm not confident with what is being said because it's herebound. So when that stadium is being knocked down, the bleachers, I mean, is being knocked down, things is going to be flying around. So I really don't buy that. So you need the expert.
Mr. Clark, could you wrap it up?
The expert that we pay. Please sit at the table and come back well prepared, and for them to give us the rules and regulation, because these things that you quote from the paper, I have no clue. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Just quickly. So, Mr. Clark, you talked about information. Just so that the public knows, right? There's the documents from Memorial Field as it pertains to the finances and everything else, and even the structural report, which will help you with the asbestos, the affidavits of certification of the asbestos being removed, and even what was done with the lead is all up on the city website underneath the Memorial Field. So if you because it's up on the website, if you need that, then you can come see me. But the financial summaries of all of that is up there. The structural report is up there, and then also some of the plans that Councilman Wallace talked about. So there is some information that is publicly up there already available, but I'll help you with whatever else you may need.
Okay.
What I was saying is really for those group of people to get that information. They can get it from City Hall on the website, and they have copies to sit in their meetings and discuss just what you said, Commissioner.
All right. We are just about getting ready to wrap up. Are there any other comments? Just a minute, Sandra. Let me see if the public had any other comments. Yes. Someone who didn't speak before? Yes.
My name is Uda Martinez. I live across the street from Mr. Clark in the Kingsbridge Gardens Conference. I just wanted to find out who's the point person, who will be the individual responsible for taking the information we've gathered today to the next step? Is it the commissioner?
For the
Will it be the commissioner? Is it the president of the city council? Where are we supposed to be looking for movement?
It is the commission. Yeah, just let me. It's the commissioner. I understand. And commissioner, do you accept that as your responsibility?
I'm going to take the information back.
Okay.
And I had a feeling.
I tried. Yeah. Okay.
That's what I can do.
Okay.
What I can do is take the information back to the mayor as to what was communicated here. And then I'm sure that the mayor and the council president will then have conversation. Right?
The other thing I had a question about was, I had the sense when you kept speaking about the signing of the document that there was an implication of liability. And is that the reason why there may be a delay in signing it? It's almost like culpability by Mayor Thomas as compared to the fact that perhaps he wasn't even involved with what occurred at the field? Is that part of his?
That's why we have a law department that is responsible for reading that consent decree and advising the Board of the Council, the Board of Estimate. There's a law department there.
And has that occurred
They have
yet?
the experts. We haven't, I haven't seen the consent. It hasn't been sent to my office.
So from the council's perspective, from the council, we approve a consent decree for the mayor to sign.
Is it the same
Whether he
one?
signed it or not, I'm not clear on. I'm hearing it wasn't signed, but the council read the consent decree, and we, just know, thank you. Just know that the mayor can't really sign any contractual agreements without the consent from the council.
And the Board of
And the Board of Estimate,
Just come to the Board of Estimate.
following up. So, which includes the controller, the Board of Estimate includes the controller.
So it didn't come to the Board of Estimate, just so we
So,
get...
okay, so it hasn't gone to the Board of Estimate yet, but the city,
When did you approve it?
we approved it months ago, 2 months ago.
You were away. It was approved at a special meeting of the
It was
council
approved.
and the Board of Estimates.
Okay, fine,
Did
so
we-
it was,
Councilman Wallace wasn't there.
so the
but
consent
the rest of us
decree,
were there.
so the consent decree, ladies and gentlemen,
Hold on.
the consent
right.
decree was approved by the council, and it was approved by the Board of Estimate. The mayor still has the responsibility to sign it.
Signed the check at the meeting, remember?
And we did sign off
talking
on
about
that
EPA, right?
$40,000 check.
That's CPA?
So,
Oh, no, I'm wrong.
Your EPA you're talking about, right?
And my
Let me-
understanding
let-
is that EPA has and my understanding is that EPA has.
Yeah, there are two, look, I think there are two different issues, and I was thinking about that people are getting conflated with. They have an issue with EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, which is the federal agency, and that's dealing with the sewers of Mount Vernon, okay? The consent decree I'm talking about is DEC, this is the state agency, and that deals with Memorial Stadium. So I hope that during this discussion, you guys weren't talking about EPA when we were talking, okay? Because the EPA is a different issue altogether. That's not DEC.
but let me,
So that question, hold on. The person who asked that question, that was an excellent question that you asked.
but I want to clear up this one thing that the public seems to have a conscious sense of that's incorrect. The council works together. We do work with the controller. We do work with the mayor's office, and we try our best to move things forward. There's a reputation that's out there that is incorrect, that we don't talk to one another. You could see here today that the entire council is here, and we communicate. We communicate with the controller's office on a regular basis, and we do work with the mayor's office. Just yesterday, a council president and myself were in Brooklyn with the mayor, looking over some police equipment that we're looking to hopefully acquire or get some funding for. So we continue to work together. Please don't believe that our city government does not work together. It's not true.
Okay. Thanks, Marcus. This right here. Yeah.
I thought the Brooklyn trip was Monday. I didn't have a date. I digress.
You missed it.
I just simply want to say thank you. Thank you, Legislator Williams. You're the only person who comes to us and alert us or inform us as to what's going on, whether it's pipeline or what is going down. So I'm grateful to you. The city council somebody said they work for us. We pay them with the taxes and things. They need to be visible in Mount Vernon. There's no reason for the city of Mount Vernon not to be the best little city in all of Westchester. We don't have to be the worst city. We need to be the best city in Mount Vernon, and they need to make it happen. We're sick and tired of all this fuss. Make it happen. Your people like us. Work with us. Call meetings. Talk to us. I'm at the bus stop out there, and people passing that Susan thing, and they don't know you. They don't smile, they don't say hi, they don't say anything. You're not, whether you preach or whoever you are, they pass you back and forth, they don't say anything. If you communicate with the people of Mount Vernon, you will have the best city and the best job. You don't have to not run again, and everybody can run because we're not prejudiced.
Okay.
lights up there before you.
Yeah, there is someone.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for holding this forum. I'm here representing the Mount Vernon Inquirer since Joe Parisi could not make it. And I would just like to make a request that whatever the plan is that you come up with that you're going to get out to the community, that you make sure that you communicate that information to Joe so that he can put it in the paper and he can put it on the paper's website to help facilitate communicating to the community what's going on. So thank you.
Okay. Reverend Morton, I just want to make sure, you weren't talking about EPA when we talked, okay, good. All right.
I think I was the only one on
Okay, you the only one.
That's why I thought the meeting was Monday in Brooklyn.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nadine McKenzie, the mother of Shamoy McKenzie.
Yes.
As she said, no one knew who her representative most of the time. I agree to that because I was living in Mount Vernon for 19 years. I'm still living in Mount Vernon 19 years. And the only person I knew was Miss Walker before. I didn't know most of the council, no one. Not to say that I wasn't into the politics. I watch the news. However, we need to get along more. We need to communicate with the community. Because if it wasn't for Shamoya's death, most of the things that we are hearing now, it wouldn't have happened. Memorial Field was the field where I used to push Shamoya in the stroller. I used to walk there. We used to go there for a lot of matches, football matches, shows, everything. Why we don't have that anymore? That generate money. We need to get along, and we're not getting along. They draft Shamoya and the New York Liberty team, and I am afraid to tell them to come interview for Mount Vernon. One of the reasons why they back and forth with all the things that's going on in the paper and the news, I am afraid to say, yes, come over.
Mm-hmm.
I got invitation for the New York Knicks team, the New York Liberty team, and I can't because I don't want to get caught up in what's going on in Mount Vernon.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? I don't want to highlight what's going on. We want it to be solved. Memorial Field need to be solved. Cleaning up does not going to solve the problem. What next? We need to know what's going on. We need all the recreation to come back to Mount Vernon. We have people who want to take part in Mount Vernon. People want to leave. Most of my family is leaving from Mount Vernon just because of all this going on. And it's sad, because my sisters are looking house, and they don't want to look in Mount Vernon. And I keep on saying, no, come in Mount Vernon. And no. And it is really sad. My daughter would never want us to leave Mount Vernon, because this is where she loved. Just let's get along. Just let's fix Memorial Field so the issue will stop also. With the crime, I didn't even know that there was crime in Mount Vernon, be honest to you. So all of this coming in the light now, to me, it's bothered me. It is bothering. So let's work together and be a part of Mount Vernon. If we can't be back and forth at each other.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. All right. We have 5 minutes. Let me I think we've heard from everyone. First of all, let me thank Westchester Community College for hosting us today. This is a fantastic facility. It provided educational opportunities for many Vernon residents of the Bronx and residents of surrounding Westchester County. The main campus is up in Valhalla. But these campuses, we have one here, we have one in Yonkers, we have in other parts of the county. I supported this to make sure that this campus here was able to do these kind of events where we can come together and have community forums. Sometimes it's good to have it in an academic setting rather than in a county building or in a city building because of the political. And I think that was a good thing today to be able to have it here. So I really appreciate that they were able to make the facilities available to us. I want to thank my staff and I want to thank my Victor Allen and Manaima Safri, I didn't see her, who actually helped to put this together. And the clerk of the board who actually lives in Mount Vernon, Sunday Vanderberg. Sunday is not a part of my staff. She is the clerk of the board. She heads the board administrative operation of the Board of Legislators. She has a very large responsibility. But she's a Mount Vernonite, and she really has been with trying to get Memorial Field done for the last, we passed legislation in 2009 to fund this from the county, and since then we have been on the same track trying to get it done. So I think today we move one step closer, one step closer. And I think that's what that's what it's going to take. It's going to take maybe small steps, but if we continue making those steps, we can accomplish the goal together. I want to thank the city council members, and yes, because as I said, I can't mandate. I know each of them. I've worked with each of them, and the reason for these meetings is not to mandate that they come. They come voluntarily. I asked them to come. I told them what we're trying to do, and they willingly come. I want to thank the Comptroller, Maureen Walker, because the Comptroller actually, she's interested in getting this done, and she actually working to put the finances together to make sure. And that's not a small task. That's a very, very, very important part, because no matter what you talk about, money is the bottom line to get things accomplished. So I'm glad to hear that we have a financial plan for the cleanup. And that way, when I go back to the Board of Legislators, I can say, well, you know, what you've been reading in the newspaper, and whether or not the county money that's been invested is going to be used properly or is going to be used to really make this field, I can guarantee you, after having a meeting with my colleagues in government locally, that we're going to move forward. And so that people will have the confidence in the city of Mount Vernon that they need to have, because these projects are done throughout the county. I mean, where they invest money in different parkland. However, I think ours have been more contentious than any others. And we've got to turn another page. And I think that this is an opportunity. I want to thank the mayor and through Commissioner Morton. Commissioner Morton and I, we talk a lot on the phone, you know, I mean, and he's a recreation professional. He's not a person that he has a lot of skills and a lot of abilities, and really, to some extent, has humbled himself to work for the city, because he has a lot greater opportunities that if he wanted to take up in the private sector. But I want to thank you, Commissioner, for what you do, and please, on behalf of, I will speak to the mayor, but I want to thank you on my behalf, to thank him for having participation in this forum. Let me just finish. And I want to thank the public of Mount Vernon. Please stay involved and stay interested. This is your Memorial Field is your field. Memorial Field is your property. It's all of our property. All of us who live in this city, that's our property. Treat it as your home. In other words, you want to see it done, you've got to push to get it done. I grew up throughout the county, and to many of these meetings where there are issues related to a community. And people participate very, 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 sometimes boisterously. I mean, they speak very clearly what they want to get done. And that's how sometimes you get your elected officials to act, and sometimes you speak softly and they act also. So I want to thank you for coming out, and for really, no matter what is said about Mount Vernon, it's the greatest city in the county of Westchester County. We just haven't really realized how great we are yet, and that's what we have to try to make sure. Yeah. Yeah.
The council has really been listening to everyone, and we want to communicate further with the people of Mount Vernon and let them know what is going on. We are having our second community forum on Thursday, May 25th at 7 p.m. in the City Council chambers. We met with the auditors last week, and we're going to be talking about the finances of the city and what the auditors had to tell us. So we want you all to be very clear that we don't have $25 million just sitting around. There's much more to it. It's very complicated, and we want you all to be educated on what is going out before you read fake news, because fake news is definitely out there. And we had one forum about a month ago. It was very, very well attended. Everybody thanked us, and we want you to tell your friends. We'll have some flyers out. It will be on the website certainly by Monday, so you can look at it again. It's Thursday, May 25th, 7 to 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay?
And I will talk to Mayor Davis when he returns. I will Mayor Thomas. Oh. I'll talk to Mayor Davis also, but I'll talk to Mayor Thomas when he returns, basically to let him know that we're going to have a next meeting, and I would like him to be here to be a part of this discussion, because he is the mayor, and it's important for him to have his voice. I know Commissioner Morton represented him very well, but it's important for him to be here in person. So thank you all again for coming. We are on time, 12 noon. Thank you.